Hello, my name is Valder, and tonight I'd like to talk to you just from the comfort of my home here. Wearing these so that my voice can be picked up better, and I promise you that's the only light I have in my bedroom, so not even trying to be dramatic. But today I'd like to talk to you about the god Ullr, because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation surrounding him, and I feel like a lot of people find it very difficult to have a meaningful relationship with him. So I'd like to just recount a couple stories that I have that involve him and how I developed my relationship with him, and then give you a couple tips on how to develop your own relationship with him. So I was always a child of the forests. I would be outside as often as I could be. And I remember there was a forest about 6 or 7 miles from my house, and once I could drive, I would go there pretty much every day. And I'd walk or run or explore, just depended on the day. And there was one time when I was about, I want to say 18 or 19, that I was running on one of the trails, and I was there with a friend, and we rounded the bend, and about 100 meters in front of us, up on a slight hill, was a stag, and the stag was just standing there, and it was just looking at me. And I figured it would run quickly off into the woods, but that wasn't the case. It just stood there. So I told my friend, hey, I'm gonna see how close I can get. And I begin to walk. I make it about halfway there. He's still standing there. Make it about 3/4 of the way there. Still standing there. At this point, I didn't assume that I was going to make it this close, so I don't know exactly what to do. So I just keep edging my way closer and closer and closer, until eventually I'm just a few paces away from this large, majestic creature. And I take another step, and then another step, and then I stretch out my hand, and I place it on its back, right at the base of its neck. And we're just looking into each other's eyes pretty much. And I just remember feeling such a profound sense of connection. Not just because, we were so close in proximity, but just because we were both two creatures in this broader realm. And even though we were different species, we both were noble and deserving. And we both shared this space and respected each other and respected the space. After just a couple moments, he darts off into the forest. And I just feel compelled to follow him. And of course, we all know how important it is to follow our instincts and follow that golden thread that emanates from our heart, if we choose to feel it. So I follow it about 100 yards into the forest. It stops about 50 yards in front of me. Then it continues, it bolts off again. And every time it continues, it looks back at me, and I just feel more and more that I should be following this creature. And eventually, through this forest that I had spent many hours in, we get to a tree line that opens up into probably a square mile or two of just nothing, pretty much. I'd never seen this place in the forest before. I didn't even know it existed. And in the middle of this clearing, there was a solitary tree. And it was about probably 20 or 30 feet high. It was scorched, like it had been struck multiple times by lightning. And I could just feel how powerful it was. And I knew that it had been shown to me for a reason. It was a gift to me. And from that day forward, all the runes that I've created, all the pieces that I've ever made out of wood have come from that tree because it's so powerful. Another time, I was once again walking through these same woods, and I was alone this time. And it was in the winter. I can remember very distinctly because, winter has such a calm nobility to it. It's always difficult to forget when you're in nature in the winter. I was walking along another trail, and I saw several sets of paw prints cross the trail and lead off into the forest. And I knew they weren't dog, just based off of the look of them and the direction they were going and the number of them. And again, I felt compelled to follow them. So I wander to and fro and over small hills and under logs and all that good stuff until I get to a small little gorge that's sort of nestled up, tucked in the side of a hill. And I'm sort of ascending this gorge, and about halfway I see an overhang. It has been sort of tunneled through the snow. And that's where these paw prints all were leading. And I could hear them at first, like little yips of pups, but it wasn't quite like pups. And then I saw a bigger one, and I can't guarantee they were wolves. They might have been coyotes. I didn't get close enough to find out, but I do remember very profoundly seeing them and seeing their place in nature and seeing them, literally carve their home out of this forest and to work with what they were given. And I also feel like that was another sight, another lesson that was given to me by Ullr. Which leads me to him and his nature. Ullr is not a very immediate god. You can't just walk into the forest, do a bloat or do a ritual or say a phrase or even walk around for a day and experience him. That's not how it works with him. You have to be noticed. You have to be something that becomes part of his realm. And what I mean by that is, if I travel into the forest for a day and come back out, I'm not really part of that forest. I'm not really part of that realm, and I'm not really worth noticing for someone like him. Someone who should be less closely compared to a man or a figure that wanders through the forest, and more as the energy of the forest itself. If you make that mental shift, it will be a lot easier to understand Ullr and how to have a relationship with him. So don't go into the forest seeking a person, seeking to have a conversation with an individual. Go in and experience. Go in and allow that energy to affect you, to become synchronized with it in a way over time. And only that way will you be able to understand him more and more. And honestly, we didn't have much to go on at all from the very beginning. The few pieces of Ullr's identity that we can cobble together are that he used to be more prominent than he was. He's commonly associated with forests, with outdoor activities, with skiing, with archery. But all these things I find truly don't add up, truly don't do him justice. And I think that's why not many choose to try to find him, and even fewer actually do. So that would be my first couple takeaways. You have to understand that his realm is vast and nearly eternal from our point of view, and ancient. And for you to be able to be noticed by him and to be a part of that, you have to put in the effort, and that requires much more than a few trips into the woods. I would encourage you strongly to go several days in a row if you can. That might work. Or if you have the luxury to, spend years getting to be part of a forest or of an outdoor area. I'm sure it doesn't have to be a forest per se. That's just what I had available to me in my area, and that's what I felt my energy be tied to more and more as I grew up and as I experienced more. One way that I encourage people to re-visualize Ullr is go into the forest the next time you can and just sit and look around. Look at all the trees, maybe look at the leaves or the brambles or the branches on the ground. Have your gaze travel up. See the vista. See the forest as you see it through the trees. See the bark of the trees. Hear the animals around you. Look up further. See the leaves in the trees. See the large, majestic branches. See the squirrels running to and fro. And then close your eyes and realize that that is the vision that we have as humans. We can only look around us. So to enhance that, with your eyes closed still, imagine lifting your gaze straight up instead. Keep going until you reach up those trees, reach the leaves, reach the boughs, and keep going higher until we can now see the trees from above. We're looking at the canopy swaying from above, and we can see yourself from above. And keep going. We can now see a larger area. We can see dozens of trees. We can see hundreds of animals. We can see geographic features. We can see terrain differentials, and we still see you in the middle, sitting there with your eyes closed. Draw your imagination up even further. Now we see miles and miles of trees. We see thousands of living creatures. We see a river now. We see so much more than the human eye could see looking from ground level. Draw your back even further now. And at this point, we can see the entire forest. We can see literally thousands of trees in every direction. We can see the entire population of the animals that live there. We can see deer trails. We can see hunting grounds. We can see everything. Now in your imagination, I want you to take that forest and I want you to slowly imagine or draw the outline of a face in it. Whatever you choose this face to look like. Masculine, feminine, strong, soft, intimidating, inviting, it doesn't matter. But see that face in the forest from above. That is Ullr. That is the presence that you feel. And that is much closer to his nature. And now you can see, hopefully, even with that thought exercise, and I guarantee it's far more powerful when you do it in person. You can see why your presence would be both difficult to detect for him and why it would be unimportant to him. Not to say that you are unimportant as an individual or that he does not want a relationship with you, but you have to understand the nature of his realm and the nature of him. And I have found that this thought exercise and this visualization technique help very well in doing that. And I would encourage you to look to further your relationship with Ullr. He has many, many lessons to teach you. I gave you a couple of the more, you could say, shocking examples of ways that I have interacted with woodland creatures. And the stag is my personal indicator, I've come to understand, of his presence. It's not the only one, but it's definitely the most immediate one, and it's definitely the oldest sign. And I can't tell you how much joy it brings me when I'm in a forest, anywhere, and see one. It just lets me know that I'm welcome and I'm acknowledged. And honestly, that's an extremely fulfilling end result. You have to put in all that effort. You have to show him that you're willing to engage your energy with his realm. You have to show him that you're dedicated. And you have to show him that you're curious and an adventurous spirit. And you will be rewarded. And I feel that it is our duty as pagans, and particularly Norse pagans, to always enhance our relationship with nature. And we are called to do it on more than a simple enjoyment or health level. There is a vast reserve of spiritual energy waiting for us in the forest. I know for a fact that I feel energized every time I take a walk in nature. I feel calmer, I feel healthier, I feel like my perspective is realigned in a way that allows me to understand more about myself and about the world around me. And that is what he has to offer. So I hope that my experiences and my meditations on Ullr and my understanding of him and his realm might help guide you. And I'm more than happy to answer any further questions about him, and I'll definitely share if I'm shown anything else about his nature along the way. So thank you for sitting here with me. I look forward to covering other gods and goddesses that I've had immediate contact with. And until then, stay well, my brothers and sisters.